Mike's Daily Podcast.
Episode 2319-2319. Hello, it's Mike Matthews. Welcome to our show this evening. The show is entitled
Mike's Daily Podcast.
I hope you like this podcast because it comes to you from Podcastro Valley, Mont. And it's Mike Matthews. And I know that you want to hear about something that's helpful and make your life great. And if you ate anything that was really good for you, I hope it did satiate you. And that's the end of my song. Wasn't it great?
Mike's Daily Podcast.
Excellent. Yes. Tell all your friends about Mike's Daily Podcast so I don't languish
Mike's
in obscurity.
Daily
Well, actually, that's kind of fun.
Podcast.
To languish in obscurity.
Yeah.
A lot of people's troubles start when they're no longer in obscure force, but they're in everybody's face and they go, oh, enough with the Adele. No, people love Adele. People are like, wait, when did she lose all that weight? And no, it's been a while. But remember when she did I think she was on Saturday Night Live, was that a year ago when she did the American accent? Possibly. And I don't have a podcast picture ready to go. I should have prepared a little better. I think today we're going to go, let's see, yesterday's podcast picture was Daytona Beach at Ponce Inlet. And I called the last podcast River. And that was the Halifax River that you see in the podcast picture. And I have not actually been in that water, in that river, but it's supposed to be really warm. My trip to Florida was so fast. It was, even though it was 2 full days, and most of we flew most of the first day. So we got there in the evening and we left in, the late afternoon. But there was so much going on. And I would have loved to have just been submerged the whole time.
And here's today's podcast picture.
Well, my head not being submerged, but that water is so warm and I love it. You need to get you into some water. What is that? That's not typical California phrasing. Well, it's California phrasing on such a autumn day. And it's Mike. So the podcast picture will also be from Florida. I hope you like it. I am going to Daytona Beach in specific. By the way, there's a guy who I think he might still be in Florida. He's doing a YouTube channel. He's one of these travel vloggers with a V. And his mission, Basil, the late great Basil the boxer. And I need to put him in a podcast picture soon. It's been a while. We'll do that, Basil. Promise. Okay. But this travel vlogger, his mission is to hit as many haunted amusement parks and haunted houses, like the ones that pop up down the street. He's going to all of these, and he's filming them because they're open now. They opened like a month or so ago, maybe more. And these haunted houses, these rides, these walkthroughs, I don't know how, because they always have live people in them to scare you. And these people must lose their voice because you're screaming when you see them, and you're only in that haunted house thing for like 5 minutes. They're in there all night screaming at people. How do they do it? And some people, some of the scarers, they do like weird things with their voice. Like they do kind of a spooky ghost voice. And some of them, they're doing a thing where they bend their neck weird because they're trying to be zombies. And they do the weird Walking Dead is what they do. They walk, they don't talk. It's the Chris Hardwick afterwards that talks. So they're doing incredibly difficult things with their body all night long to scare you. The next day, they must be really sore. And I've seen now several of his videos where he's gone through several of these walkthroughs. And so far, I've seen hundreds of scarers And they're all putting so much into it just to scare you. Where does that come from? I have no... Maybe when you were a kid, that was fun to scare people. But where is that desire to scare people? Some people just love it. Because it's all animal instincts. It's all rawr, like that. They tap into that. And they love it. And they love inhabiting a character. And putting in those awful contact lenses that make you look all zombie-like and ghost-like and like you're turning into the Hulk. Just where does it... People really get into it. And I know because when I was in Texas, I was also in Texas on my trip. I stopped at Six Flags Over Texas, and they're doing their Fright Fest thing. And we were waiting in line with this kid, and he was telling us all these, I go to this every year. I hope I get a job here because I want to be a scarer. And then he got really scared. And at one point, he's like, do you mind if I stand next to you because I don't like what's going to come up in this room. And then I'm like, what are you talking about? All of a sudden this guy with a pig head jumps out with a chainsaw, and it's all chainsaws, isn't it? So much chainsaw sounds. It's just the vroom 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 that gets people scared. So we're talking a little bit about fear on the podcast today, and about dealing with fear if you're submerged in a world of fear. Whatever it is that scares you, here are some ways to cope with day-to-day fear and anxiety. Take time out. It's impossible to think clearly when you're flooded with fear or anxiety. The first thing to do is take time out so you can physically calm down. Distract yourself from the worry. Or get out of the ride. Or don't go to these scary places. These haunted house ride, theme park, dark rides. Distract yourself from the worry for 15 minutes by walking around the block. It always comes back to walking, doesn't it? Making a cup of tea. Maybe having a bath. Taking a shower. If you start to get a faster heartbeat or sweaty palms, as we go outside a cafe anyway, we're bringing Mike's Daily Podcast somewhere in Podcastro Valley. Hey! Podcastro Valley 10? Mont. That's right. The best thing is not to fight it. Stay where you are and simply feel the panic without trying to distract yourself and waving to people outside cafe anyway. Place the palm of your hand on your stomach and breathe slowly and deeply. The goal is to help the mind get used to coping with panic, which takes the fear of fear away. Face your fears. Avoiding your fears only makes them scarier. Whatever your fear, if you face it, if you name it, as we were talking about last podcast, about if you name it, you can tame it. It should start to fade. If you panic one day getting into a elevator, for example, it's best to get back into the elevator the next day. Imagine the worst. Try imagining the worst thing that can happen. Perhaps it's panicking and having a heart attack. Then try to think yourself into having a... What? It's just not possible to... It says here it's not possible to think yourself into having a heart attack. The fear will want to run away the more you chase it. And this according to NHSinform.Scot. Yes, that's the National Health System from Scotland. Some other ideas, they say, look at the evidence. It's sometimes helpful to challenge your fearful thoughts. Ask yourself, what's the evidence that's scaring you? Is it real? Is it rational? Don't try to be perfect in life. It's impossible to be perfect. That whole stress and anxiety of being perfect, let that go. Visualize a happy place. Talk about your fear. There's lots of places you can go. Things you can search on the internet about that. Go back to basics and reward yourself when you've defeated fear. Treat yourself to a massage, a nice meal out, a book, something like that. There you go. From NHSinform.Scot. That's how they do their websites in Scotland. .Scot. But I'm at mikesdailypodcast.com. I don't have a .Scot account. Darn. And my name's not Scott. Hey, one other quick thing is there is a radio station called Dave now in the Bay Area. And what's interesting about that is it was an alternative rock station called Alt 105.3. Now it's Dave 105.3. And before it was Alt 105.3, it was Live 105.3. And they have been around, the alt rock scene has been around a long time in San Francisco. I don't think it's been as long as K-Rock, KROQ in Los Angeles. That broke bands like Oingo Boingo and The Cure way back when, Depeche Mode. But now it appears there are no more alternative rock stations in the Bay Area. It is as if the top of the charts for the alternative rock charts, no one cares about those top 5 songs. There's a, what's it called? Main Skin? Matt, what is it? I have it right here. Okay, let's look at the top of the alternative charts. And I can tell you right now, and this is just the gist of it, looks like it is Main Skin. They got a song called Beggin'. That's number 1. Do you know that song? That's probably why Alt 105.3 is gone, because no one knows that song, and that's the number 1 song on the alternative charts. Then Imagine Dragons' Wrecked, which I don't really hear that song getting played. And as for the latest Imagine Dragons album, and I'm burying this deep in my podcast, so don't hold this against me, not the best Imagine Dragons that I have heard so far. The 2 songs off that album, just not really that good. But considering their last album had some big hits on it. Vance Joy is number 4. 21 Pilots. They seem to be at the top of the charts all the time on the alternative. They're in the top 5. And All Time Low, Monsters featuring Black Bear. And I think that song's been in the top 5 for months and months and months now. And people, I know that song's crossed over to other charts, but yeah. Oh, and then the Foo Fighters have a song called Making a Fire. Have you heard of any of those? That's why alternative rock is basically dying a slow death, fast death, actually. A lot of stations are flipping. And Dave 105.3 is a station playing some alternative hits from like the 80s and 90s. Let's see, what did I hear? I heard Cranberries' Dreams. I heard... Ooh, now I can't remember the other song. There was something from the 80s I think I heard. I think they're called All Random Radio is what they're going for. But it's basically hits from the past, not from the present. So that seems to be where it's going. By the way, if you like alternative, you might also like AAA, which stands for Adult Album Alternative. And that top 5 right now for AAA also includes an Imagine Dragons song. Also in the top 5, a band called The Record Company. I like their stuff. They have a song called How High that's doing well. The band Lord Huron, they're really good. They have a song called Mine Forever that's pretty awesome. Milky Chance, they had a hit on the alternative charts a couple years back. Now they're on the adult alternative with a song called Colorado. And Nathaniel Ratcliffe and the Night Sweats, they have a new song called Survivor. That's number 1 on the charts. So there you go. How radio is changing. And really the alternative, what they called indie pop, indie rock, that's really hitting a lull these days. You might like that music, but as far as popularity goes, it's not having a heyday right now. And it's not getting played on many radio stations. So that's pretty much it for today's podcast. We're outside a cafe anyway, somewhere in Podcastro Valley. Look who is here. Hi, Mike. It's Benita the Rodeo Queen. How y'all doing?
That's a disgruntled fiddle player, tell you what.
What?
I don't know any of those people that y'all talked about. Give me some good Trace Adkins music and Willie Nelson, and I'll be happy.
All right, look who else is here.
Hello, Mike. I make you the least root beer. Have some right now.
Thank you. I am drinking this from a mason jar today. I faced my fears and I drank your root beer.
Drink it or I'll cut you.
You don't scare me. Next show, it'll be the wonderful Madame Rootabega, Valentino, and Bison Bentley. You can chime in to anything we mentioned today at 336MM Daily. Give me a call. 3 + 3 = 6. MM as in Mike Matthews. Daily as in what this podcast has been for a couple days. Sometimes I get interrupted. You know that whole spiel.
Mike's Daily Podcast is written and produced and performed by Mike Matthews. His podcast is super easy to find. Download or listen to his show and read his blog at mikesdailypodcast.com. Email Mike now at mikesdailypodcast@gmail.com. See you tomorrow. Bye!